The Teleman Big Magazine is your salvation. It's healthy food recipes. It's automotive advice. It's accounting tips. It's up-to-date current events. The Teleman Big Magazine, the official magazine of the new nation of Islam. Pick up your copy at Dell Gas. In just 7 Mile Road, and the one graphic located in the Northwest Activity Center, 18100 Mile Road. Just burden to 17600 West 8 Mile Road to get a subscription. 1-786-9788. The Teleman Big Magazine. Get your copy today.
Excellent Graphic Design provides agency quality professional graphic design services from established companies with production and paperwork, creating a simple logo to complete rebranding and delivering visual communication with print media. Everything SOS Graphic Design does has a single unifying objective: to set your business apart. We are at your service. Call 313-342-2166 and 313-342-2166 or online at www.sosgraphicdesigns.com.
We would like to invite you to help support the efforts of the Unity and Rebuilding Fund. Visit the website at www.unityandrebuildingfund.com. That's www.unityandrebuildingfund.com. We often hear how we need to work together to rebuild the city. We're actually doing it. You can make online donations and click on links to track the progress of the Unity and Rebuilding Fund. And for more information, 313-866-0000, the local number. Again, 313-866-0000. Support the Unity and Rebuilding Fund.
You're watching 130 times live before Highland Park, Michigan. FM 88.1 WHBR, Highland Park. WBIE 107.3 FM Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands.
SOS Graphic Design provides agency quality professional graphic design services from established companies with production and paperwork, creating a simple logo to complete rebranding and delivering visual communications with print media. Everything SOS Graphic Design does has a single unifying objective: to set your business apart. We are at your service. Call 313-342-2166 and 313-342-2166 or online at www.sosgraphicdesigns.com.
The Teleman Big Magazine is your salvation. It's healthy food recipes. It's automotive advice. It's accounting tips. It's up-to-date current events. The Teleman Big Magazine, the official magazine of the new nation of Islam. Pick up your copy at Dell Gas Station, 13110 West 7 Mile Road, and SOS Graphics, located in the Northwest Activity Center, 18100 Mile Road. Just bring to 17600 West 8 Mile Road to get a subscription. 1-786-9788. The Teleman Big Magazine. Get your copy today.
Opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of W33GY, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Brothers and sisters, are you tired of reading the whole scriptures and not really understanding what's read? And if
This conference is being recorded.
every focus that what you feel,
The recording started.
They have different views in your own. Then let's talk to one another. Let's reason with one another. Scriptural Discussion is the Son of Man. A live broadcast every Sunday at 12 noon on TV 33, FM 88.1 WHBR and Comcast Cable. So why don't you call and let's discuss the Holy Bible and come to an agreement about the Holy Scripture and truth. So tune in to a Scriptural Discussion with the Son of Man every Sunday at 12 noon right here on TV 33, FM 88.1 WHBR and Comcast Cable. You can call in live on the air at area code 313-868-4336, 868-0342, and 868-0351.
course, the area code is 313. That's 313-868-0346, 868-0342, and 868-0354. And now let's go live to the Scriptural Discussion of the Son of Man.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Truthful, and the Most Just, I greet all of you who are hungry and thirsty for the true understanding of the Word of God. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. May Allah's Salam Alaikum. I want to give those who have disagreement with something that they heard me teach. You are welcome, and I sincerely mean that. You're welcome to come in and express what you disagree about, and I will be more than happy to discuss that with you. If I'm standing up before people who have already been educated on any particular subject matter, and I say something that disagrees with what they have come to believe or came to think that they know, it would manifest my incompetence to not expect them to argue. You don't just get people to throw something away that they've been believing all their life just because you said it. And if you're not willing to entertain respectful argument with them, then you need to sit down. You know, because whether you like it or not, people are one with what they believe. Generally, when you attack a person's belief, if you don't know what you're doing, they will take that as an affront and an attack on themselves. That is because the true self is not the flesh. The true self is the mind that has been built up on that which you are attacking. So the more I understand these things, the more humbling it is. So if you have something you want to say to me that maybe you took offense at that I said, that you believe in, about something that you believe in, I would be more than happy to explain myself to you. I once was as you are. I was taught in America. I was born in America. I went to elementary school, junior high school, and high school in the American public school system. And so, you know, I'm no stranger. I'm one of you. I'm just one of you that Allah has brought out of darkness into light, out of spiritual darkness That's very important. I was brought out of spiritual darkness, meaning the misunderstanding of the Holy Scriptures. Because I was given plenty light in America. The light that I was given was, and I'm still using it today. You notice I can read and write. I have a pretty good command of language. I learned that in America. I even learned my first lesson of patience and tolerance by growing up in America. I didn't fully appreciate the lesson while I was growing up. You know, everybody gets angry when someone says something that just cuts against the whole grain of their belief system. But in America, you have the right to speak things against people's beliefs. You have the freedom of speech. I've heard them, I used to hear people say, I disagree with that so-and-so, but I will defend with my life his right to say it. And I didn't have as much respect for that when I was younger as I do now that I am an older man and understand that that is a one cannot claim to believe in freedom, that the human being has the right to liberty. That's, if you look up liberty, it means freedom. To life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are inalienable rights that by virtue of you being born and being allowed to come into existence, anyone who recognizes that the Creator allowed that to happen recognizes that they don't have the right to prevent you from exercising the freedom of expression, as long as you are not infringing on someone else's. You along with freedoms, freedom is a power. Is a power that everyone that is a human being cherishes that power to be free. That if I don't like something you say, I have the freedom to say, I don't like that. I don't agree with that. That's the first step to gaining a brother. That's the first step to gaining agreement. If you understand what the purpose, I don't mean to be lecturing you as those many of you don't understand, but I just want you to understand, until you can convince people that you understand what they understand, how can you hope to convince them to listen to you tell them some things that they may not understand? They have to first respect you as an equal, at least. That's why I stand up and I explain to you that I understand. You've never even, have you thought about the Constitution Many of you talk about the Constitution, but you never talk about the purpose for which the Constitution was drawn up. Because once you understand the purpose of the Constitution being drawn up, it's like Jesus told the people, they so worried about the Sabbath day. You can't do this on the Sabbath. And if you pulling them, your disciples picking corn on the Sabbath day. And Jesus said they was hungry. He said the Sabbath was made for man. Man wasn't made for the Sabbath. In other words, the minute that these days that we set aside cease to serve a useful purpose for us, then it's time to throw them away. The Sabbath day didn't make us. We made the Sabbath. Do you understand? Well, likewise, the purpose of the Constitution, it was laid out in the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order for the purpose to form a more perfect unity among ourselves, a more complete unity. And establish justice. You ask the average person, what is justice? And you get all kind of answers. Simplify it. It's been simplified quite a few times. I like the way I've heard some of the politicians say it because they made me think. I'm not a person who lives in a vacuum. And I told you, Allah is independent. Allah is the truth. The truth is independent of whoever telling it. It don't make no difference who it is that's telling the truth. If he's telling the truth is the truth. Whether he be saint, whether he be angel, whether he be a scientist, or whether he be a wino. The truth is independent of him. It's like I heard presidents stand up and say once that in America, if you work hard, if you're willing to work and be honest and work hard, then you can be successful in this country. In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. It's not justice that you go out and work all day and work and don't even make enough money to take care of your necessities. That's not justice. That's why a minimum wage. See, all of those things that they say that I'm starting to understand better now. I see why a minimum wage. Now, if you want more than a minimum wage, you figure out a way to either become an entrepreneur or ask your employer, what is your chances of, how often do you give raises besides the cost of living? I mean, what can I do to work my way up? And if I can't work my way up, I'm not going to argue with you about it. I'm going to seek other employment, and I'm going to continue to do the job that I signed up for with you. But if I find another employer, you know what I'm going to do? That's going to pay me more money? I'm not going to walk off that man's job. I'm going to give him 2 weeks notice and tell him, look, I'm going to tell him why I'm leaving. It's not, that's just me. Yeah, I'm not telling you, you have to tell somebody why. But if I was you, I'd be honest with the man. Say, look, man, I like working for you. If he treats you right and whatever, yeah, I like working for you, man. Said, but I got a better offer, man. These people offering to pay me $3 more an hour than what you're giving me, and I can use that. And that gives him a chance to either match it, or it gives him a chance to put a help wanted, or look at some of them applications that other people done put in. And he may tell you, well, okay, whenever you're ready, you can go, or thanks for giving me 2 weeks so I can replace you. And you know what he would say? Most of the time he would tell you, look, if that don't work out, you can come back here. Every man understands a man's need to better his condition. Do you understand? So it's nothing wrong with leaving. It's how you leave that determines what kind of character you have. You see? And so do unto others. Put yourself in that person's position. If you had a business and you depend on your employees, if you didn't need them employees, you wouldn't have hired them. There's no such thing as a business that say a businessman gonna tell you, I don't need no employees. If he didn't need you, you wouldn't be there. So you take into account that he needs you, and if you must leave, then give him a chance to replace you. Do you understand? That's justice. You see, and I'm looking at these foolish people. Do you think you could do in Russia what you can do in America? Criticize the president? It'll be all last night and the night before, 24 robbers came knocking on your door. Yeah, knocking on it with one of them battering rams. So at least, now I don't know that for a fact. I'm making a fun of that. But according to what I have understood from dictators, and Mr. Putin, he's dictator, a man being congratulated on an election that he couldn't lose. I mean, how do you call and congratulate somebody on winning a race that they was the only one running? I mean, how do you justify that? Unless you wish that, unless you envy that kind of person and wish that you could do it. I'm gonna tell you something. The day for people being ruled by fear. You know, the scripture says, you are my friend if you do whatsoever I command you. Well, that's how Allah defines his friends. Okay. The devil, it is only the devil who frightens his friends. How did Hitler get people to obey him? He lied to them and frightened them. If they wouldn't believe his lies, and somebody called him on his lies and got out publicly accusing him of lying, they might come up missing. Huh? Yeah. So, whatever happened to what I read about in history where when white people, when Americans had a fire, one of these settlers was here and they barn burnt down, or their house burnt down. Their neighbors got together and helped them replace it. You know, what happened to that America? I tell you what happened to it: technology and prosperity. It's pretty common that people that have no whose hearts are not rooted in the Word of God can never stand to be prosperous. It winds up choking their humanity. And that's what Allah wanted us to learn. I'm not condemning just, I mean, that would happen in any country. It wouldn't just happen in America. It happen in any country. You know, especially in a society where the that is capitalist. There can't be no such thing as a society that's controlled by a dictator and the state controls everything and whatnot because men are too corrupt. You will always have people who play favors to their family, and the people that they don't like, they would just cut your water off. I mean, how many of y'all saw uh, um, Total Recall? I see you knew where I was going with that. What was that? Total Recall. What did he do? Cut the air off. Cut the air off. Could you imagine if somebody could control the air on the earth? A lot of us would have been long dead. Black people and white people. Huh? You see? And, you know, that is, you know, that's always the easy road. It's hard to convince someone who disagrees with you that you are right in this society because most people are not right. If they really thought they were right, they would try to reason with you. You notice America has been moving further and further away from war and moving more toward diplomacy. It's a good thing to have ambassadors and Secretary of State and all of these kind of, I understand the need for those things now. When you are trying to develop civilized people, and when you are trying to conduct yourself human to human instead of as master to slave. You know, it is, I'll show you an example of you've just proved something. I'm so thankful that I told you, the FBI have our back. Those men in the FBI. You see who caught that man that was bombing people. And when they cornered him, he blew himself up. And I think injured one or two officers or whatnot. But when you looked at all of those men that was standing up there with the cameras rolling, most of them had FBI on the back of their jacket. So as I look at this thing that the Mueller investigation, that the special investigator, the FBI investigating the meddling in the America's election. You notice with all of the FBI's resources, with all of the intelligence community's resources, Russia and them still was able to do that. with all of the America invented the internet. And it was used against the inventor. You know, it's like anything that is. Look at a car. A car is a great invention. And yet you've seen people use the car to run people down. It's another weapon now for people who want to do harm to other people, to try to instill fear in people. Huh? What is the major thing of terrorism? What is the major purpose of it? It is to make people lose faith in their government. Because who's responsible for the peace and the well-being of the citizens of a nation? It is the government that has the police force. It is the government that has the army or the armed forces. And so the purpose of terrorism is to frighten people to such degree that they don't feel that their government can protect them. You know what the true nature of fear is? In order to know the true nature of fear, you have to know what the true cause of fear is. Think back when you were a child. Ignorance, lack of knowledge is what made you afraid to turn the light off. And you never told your mama or your daddy to leave the light on in the room. Until you came into the understanding in your own mind that there's nothing in the room in the dark that wasn't there in the light. When you turn the light off, everything is still the same as it was when it was on. Except that if you don't turn that light off, you're going to wake up tired and don't know why. You need to let you notice the pupil in your eye. When there's no light, the pupil relaxes at being open, dilated. When you shine light in it, that's what the man be looking at. A lot of the things that they look when the doctor examine you, he making sure your pupils open and close like they're supposed to. Well, if it's a muscle, sometime you may need to rest it. That's what we made the night for rest. Do you understand? So instead of seeing red, you need to see black. when you go to lay down to rest, let your eyes rest too. Now, if you hear me say something that you think is bad information, look, man, I wouldn't be talking in the public if I can't stand correction. You know, you don't open yourself up in a public forum and let people give you feedback if you trying to put something over on. Because it's an old saying, but it's true. You can fool some of the people all the time and all the people some of the time. but you sure can't fool all the people all the time. And just because somebody's eyes is closed don't mean they sleep. Do it, Rahima. You see? You know, sometimes people have their eyes closed because they just want to rest their eyes. You know, it ain't because they sleep. You know, and just because somebody don't call you on something that you saying don't mean that they didn't hear and hear what you said and going for it. Sometimes they might want to see how far you gonna go. Do you understand? You know, that's the way investigations go. They let you talk. They let you do what you're gonna do and see how far you gonna go with it. Huh? Okay. Now, but I'm so thankful for this investigation because it proved the point. You remember I told you? Now look how many people, look how Farrakhan and all these people that's complaining about Donald Trump, a lot of them, like Miss Waters and all of them, Farrakhan had them tricked. He was supporting Donald Trump. Even if he didn't come out and just say vote for him, he was calling Miss Clinton a crook. He was saying that's a wicked lady, a wicked woman. Huh? What was that to say then? If he dissing, is it, young people, is that okay if I use that? If he dissing Miss Clinton, who is he promoting? He didn't diss Donald. He didn't diss Mr. Trump. He even boasted about, well, he's self-funding his own campaign, so he's not going to be beholden. One liar believing another liar. And you ain't heard him say nothing about Donald Trump yet. Have you? Wonder how much he got paid. Yeah, I said it. Ain't nothing wrong with wondering. Inquiring minds want to know. Is that right? Okay. Now you can get mad at me, but I'm telling you something. At the same time, you know, I see wrong. I see things that make people look like they up to no good. But at the same time, Minister Farrakhan them got farms, and you know they sell them navy beans. They sell those that they ground their own flour, and you do well to buy some of it. Try it for yourself because it show good stuff. You know, but understand something. Just because I buy products from you don't mean that I agree with everything you say and do. But at the same time, know that it ain't nothing personal. You correct yourself, then we good, as far as I'm concerned. Even when he was selling those power products. When I was cutting hair, I bought them products. I sure did. You know, I mean, what? I mean, you think everybody that you do business with supposed to believe like you? That's something else I learned from growing up in America. I learned that separation of church and state goes a lot further than you think. What a man's religion got to do with you buying a car from him or something that he invented that's a worthwhile invention? Why would you boycott that invention simply because that man say he don't believe like you believe it, as far as God go? Especially since Our book says there is no compulsion in religion. And when I say our book, I'm talking about the Holy Scriptures, period. The Bible says, whosoever will, let him come and drink of the waters of life without coercion. That's what freely means. You see? So it's not up to you to run around calling yourself. I tell you what, you see man speeding up and down the street. How many of y'all jumps in your car and get behind him and say, pull, pull? Do you pull him over? Well, you know speeding is against the law. But the government got people out there that'll pull him over. Is that right? And you ain't one of them. Likewise, God don't need you to enforce his laws. He needs you to treat other people like you want to be treated. And leave judging these people that disobey him to him. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. Now, I want to say this to you. Do you know, like I said, you notice, I wasn't tricked. I go on the internet. I saw a lot of that stuff people that they had out there about Miss Clinton. But I was told, if an unrighteous man bring you some news, look carefully into it. Lest you harm a people and then be sorry for what you did. A lot of you ain't admitting it, but you sorry as hell that you voted for Donald Trump. That's what you get for running with gossip. You didn't even think about it. You didn't even look at the history of that woman. You listen at the gossip about the woman. When she was first lady, I didn't hear nobody saying hateful things about her. Even when that woman set her husband up and she found out about his infidelity, she didn't get out there and act a fool about it. Matter of fact, y'all complimented her that she kept her dignity. Then all of a sudden, I mean, she's been the first lady, been a senator, been secretary of state. What Donald Trump been? For America, what has he been? Well, that's the thing I was asking myself. You know, I mean, I ain't seen no arrest record of her. Went online and found out Donald Trump's daddy got arrested at a Klan rally. Found out Donald Trump had been actually settled a lawsuit for discrimination against black people. Found out that man was working people and wasn't paying them. And there was a time in America that he couldn't have even dreamed about being president if he didn't wake up and apologize. Because people just didn't go for deadbeats or a man that was didn't have any scruples. I mean, they wasn't telling you had to be a saint, but you had at least if you wanted to be president, you had to show the American people that you could control yourself. But what happened? The educational system changed. And that's the root of your freedom, your education. If your education does not teach you and guide you on not what to think, but how to think for yourself. You know, if you could just look at the justice system, a man has a right to face his accuser. And when you get in court to face that accuser, whether it's the court of public opinion or the court of justice in America, the demand should be the same. Where's the proof? What is proof? It's facts. If you say that that woman is just crooked, well, where's the proof? You mean all this crookedness in her and she ain't never been arrested? Ain't never had to sell a lawsuit for quietly settling? But you call her crooked. And if nothing else, I had just seen a president and vice president that I gained the utmost of respect for. You know, to this day, I hope that they got sense enough to elect Joe Biden for president. I don't have no dog in the hunt against Mr. Sanders either. I think he'd have made a good president. But I think Joe Biden, I mean, he has proved beyond any shadow of a doubt that he would care about this whole country. And but anyway, as I was looking at all of the, you know, little robots, I got some of them called. I got some of them things, them robot what you call them? Robo things, not robo calls. I didn't get no robo call. I don't even answer them kind of thing. But when I go online and I see something being said, sometimes I go on there and hear something being said negative about Donald Trump, and it'd be a robot voice. And I say, oh, shoot, I don't know what is this? And then it'd be something negative about Miss Clinton and whatnot. I didn't buy that stuff. You notice I never played none of that stuff for you. I got it on my computer. I just didn't trust it. You know, I don't trust. I remember this man on Crimson Tide. What's that? Gene Hackman? Right before they dived, he was smoking his cigar. And he said, I don't trust air that I can't see. And I do not trust witnesses that I can't see. I mean, if you thought enough of what you are saying to put it on the internet, why didn't you think enough of it to come out there and be seen saying it? Sly Stone wrote a song Everybody's a star. He said, you don't need darkness to do what you think is right. You don't need to hide away. If you know that what you're saying is the truth, why are you hiding? That's the one thing. Cowards and truth don't go together. You know why? Because God is the truth. You might start off, I tell you what, let somebody lie on you. And do it, and you standing there. Something in you compels you to say, "What? That's a lie. Why you say that about me?" And you don't care who they are. When Moses was scared of Pharaoh until the truth came to him. Allah, the Jehovah told Moses, "You go, I'll go with you." The truth is not a word that gives you fear. It emboldens you. Yeah. So anyway, as I told you, the best protection. See, the FBI and the CIA and all of the armed forces and all of that of America, they're strong and they can fight any enemy. But when that enemy is deception and chicanery and deceit, manipulation, the FBI won't do you no good on that one. You got to have understanding in your head. You got to know the truth. You have to have a reasonable mind, a reasonable mind. And a mind that lacks knowledge is not a reasonable mind. People can you know what they say, a sucker is born how often? Every minute. You notice that's the one thing that horses, cattle, dogs, you name it, the offspring of flesh creatures on land especially, all they can do is suck their food. A sucker is born every minute. What is a sucker? A baby mind. A mind that has very little knowledge, can't do nothing but, can't chew nothing, can't turn nothing over. And I wonder if this right now, last week I saw this, back in the day, I remember when people used to do it. You ain't got none of that going on in your mind. So you are easy mark. Children make bad decisions because they don't have much to start with. So it don't take them long to come to a conclusion about what to do, because there ain't much going on up there in their head, because they have a very shallow mind. And you can always sway their thinking or sway them. It's like the Holy Quran says the devil only promises them to deceive them. You see, what is that? Politics. That's where people promise you a lot of things. You see? I mean, it's not no accident that you grew up hearing the term, well, speak of the devil. And you thought he was joking. It's no joke. The best way to hide is right there in the open. You're talking about, was there any collusion? The man already, you got the man right out there in the open saying, Russia, if you can hear me, if you're listening, those 30,000 emails, I think you would be mighty rewarded from the press if you would bring them out if you got them. The man asking Russia to help him against Miss Clinton. And you talking about, was they in on it together? Well, if you can't see that, well, that's you. But most of you didn't care because of what he promised you. And, you know, in order to get you like that, you know, children mostly, they don't care about their siblings. They don't care nothing about their sibling. They have to grow up to learn to care about their sibling. Because he'd be sitting there and his little brother might have dropped his, you know, might not have been able to eat. He'd sit there and eat up everything. Tell him you should have been here. Is that right? He don't say, oh, come on, I'm going to share some of mine with you. No, he ain't going to share nothing. You think I'm joking. I'm not joking. I'm telling you about children. So you know what kind of mind that is when you just care about yourself and not your fellow American. See, but when the country get attacked, you want everybody to care. You see, and that's why somebody, you know, the president of the United States got to have some sense. If he's going to keep America safe, he's got to teach you to care about each other. Because if you don't care about each other, then it's easy to divide you against each other. And then you tear up your own house. Don't nobody have to come tear it up. You tear it up yourself. Let me tell you something. It's just like your mind. The mind dictates to the body. You know, there's people that the doctor will tell them, you know, you fine. Your blood pressure fine. Your heart rate is fine. Everything is fine. You check out. We done did all these tests on you, but as long as they think something wrong with them, they gonna make something hurt, and their mind is hurting. Now understand something. I'm not saying that sometimes doctors don't get it wrong, but most of the time doctors get it right. That's one of the wonderful things about having faith in Allah, faith in God. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave me some wonderful teachings. One of the best teachings he gave me was how to eat to live. And because I eat to live, I know I ain't got no business having nothing wrong with me. So I ain't running around here worrying about whether I'm sick or not. Do you understand? I don't think every little pain I feel is because something wrong with me. The body is just like any your car, you hear squeaks in it sometime. You know, anything that you can hear your house settling sometime. You don't jump up and run outside. My house about to fall down. You know, if it's made out of wood or whatnot, it's settling. It's gonna do that. Do you understand? Well, flesh is weak. You know, but that don't mean that you about to die just because you have an ache or a pain somewhere. You can make yourself a nervous wreck, running around think every time you feel a little something. You know, if you just relax and trust in Allah, that if He told you and me He told me how to eat to live, so I eat the way He told me. When I don't eat the way He told me, I know why I may not feel good. I can tell you why I don't feel good. Because I ate wrong. You know? But for the most part, I get around just about as good now, almost 70 years old, as I got around when I was 20. So I'm satisfied that whatever Allah want to happen to me, that's what's gonna happen. I ain't gonna worry about it. Do you understand? And I let myself be at peace. Your body can't be at peace if the mind is all shook up. Once you really understand that, and I'm telling all of you, trust in Allah to help you no matter what stage of life you are in. Because scientists don't know everything about the body. The mind controls everything. You just don't know how strong the human will is because you have not exercised it. I ain't never gonna surrender to death. Because life just does not surrender to death. Even when we do what we call dying, the material that you was composed of decomposes and goes and become part of something else. Life goes on. It's up to you to trust Allah's word and trust in Allah. I remember Job. I mean, the devil had him on his looked like his deathbed, didn't he? And what did Job? His wife tried to get, you know, Job's mind wouldn't tell him that. So the devil got talked to him through his wife. Won't you just go and forget about God and die? That's what cursed God and died. Yeah. And Job told her, you sound like one of the foolish women. Shall I receive good from the Lord and not receive evil? The Lord give and the Lord take away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So, I remember once I was looking at this movie and said, I love my pain. It makes me know I'm still alive. Huh? Don't take away my pain. Because, you know, a dead man don't feel nothing. Is that right? Sure as I tell you. So, we live as long as we can. And we die when we have that to do. And death is like sleep. Death's supposed to come on us like sleep. Don't nobody know when they went to sleep. They only know when they woke up. Do you understand? So if death come to me, I won't know it. So I ain't worried about it. I sure ain't going to be sitting down anticipating it. Got no time to be thinking about something that I ain't going to know when it happened. No way. So why worry about it? Now, let me tell you I wanted you to remember, don't destroy yourself with your own thoughts. You want the body to be at peace? Then trust in Allah and let your mind be at peace. And I guarantee you, your body will feel better. You get on a horse, and a horse, he can sense when his rider is scared. He's subject to buck you off. You know, I mean, that horse won't trust you. He'll get you and you getting riding with him, and he'll stop at a fence instead of went on jumping it. He don't know what you gonna do up there. Is that right? But if he trusts you, he'll go on and jump that fence. If he don't trust you, he'll get to the fence and you'll be ready to go, and you go over by yourself. Yeah, that's right. So you know, the body functions better when the mind is at peace. Let your mind be at peace and stop worrying about things that you have no control over. And I'm gonna tell you something. I want to talk to some of them who, you know, I'm going to let you see something here. You know, it was really, I was very curious about why did white people elect Donald Trump? You know, I know a lot of them, when they heard President Obama say, well, Trump will never be president. Well, that angered a lot of them right there. But they was racist anyway. You know, the President Obama, because his mother was white and his grandmother and grandfather basically raised him, and they was both white. He learned to respect them as human beings, because his grandfather, he talked about him a lot. And he just assumed that basically all of white people was like the two that raised him and like his mother. You understand? And so he gave them credit. He gave all white people the same credit for having the same understanding that his grandmother or grandfather had, and his own mother. Because he wasn't around his black father. He was around the white part of his family. And so he just knew that his people on the white side was more intelligent than that. But he didn't. He gave them more credit than he should have. You know, and he got disappointed. But now they are disappointed because they voted their emotions instead of their reason. Do you understand? And now trying to justify it. A lot of them don't even look at the news now. You know why? Rather than see and realize that they messed up, they'd rather not see it and just keep believing like they was believing. That's dangerous. Let me show you.
There is a certainty to life in Roberts County, here in the Texas Panhandle. The uninterrupted sky above, the sweeping plains around, generation after generation, very little has changed. This one downtown stoplight always flashes yellow on one side and red on the other. And you can almost set your watch to the train. They race through town so often, people here say they don't even notice them. Here in Roberts County, the population is around 900, and in the 2016 election, almost all of them voted for Donald Trump, 95%. That was the highest county percentage in the entire country. So the rest of the world took notice. The press descended on this quiet community, and then they all left. We, however, came back again and again over the last year. See, we wanted to spend time with folks on the ground here to really understand what matters to them and to see what they thought about President Trump's first year. So 1 month after he took office, we came here and met Mitchell Locke.
I was born here, raised here, and my great-great-grandfather helped found the town. It's a small town. Everybody knows each other. It's a slow life, and I enjoy that.
Mitchell is a fifth-generation cattle rancher. In this family business, father and son work side by side.
Just feed these and go on and feed those wherever you meet them.
You and your dad get to work together every day.
Sometimes it's hard because you have to work, like, where do you draw the line from, like, father, son to employee? Like, he called me at 6 o'clock this morning wanting to talk about work.
Sure.
And, like, on
What did you say?
I said, we'll talk about this at work, and I hung up the phone.
The Locke's ranch, like others in this area, is vast. Cows do not look excited. Their land stretches thousands of acres, and it's worth millions of dollars. But money is still tight. Most of what they earn goes back into the business. Another chunk goes to pay down debt. And there's only enough for Mitchell to pull a salary. But if President Trump can push through tax cuts, all that could change.
Hillary Clinton's presidency might have destroyed our business. She would have raised the tax, and we already struggle to pay the taxes. My dad's 72 years old, and when he died, we would have had to pay the value of 50% of our ranch, something that he's worked his entire life for, to pass down.
Now, did you hear him? Man didn't elect Donald Trump because he's a racist. He was concerned about being a rancher, and they was going to tax him, and in so many words, out of business. Because just because your property is worth that much, that don't mean that you are liquid, that you have that kind of money. The man been generations of farming, generations of ranching, producing beef that probably sold all over America. But if you help put all of them people out of business, then who's going to produce your beef? And the people who was with Trump, they knew that them people out there was out there. Even though Trump ain't keep his promise to them people. But at least he made a promise. At least he talked to them. It's just like when I voted for Governor Haley Barbour. He came and asked for my vote. One of the highway patrol officers, or an ex-highway patrol officer that I knew, brought Mr. Barbour down here and introduced him to me. And you know, I told Mr. Barbour, I said, well, at least you came here and asked for my vote. He said, yeah, I'll vote for you, Mr. Barbour. The only thing I ask is that you do right by my people. And he looked me right in my eyes, and I was looking in his, and he said, okay. And in a way, he kept his word. He pardoned a lot of people before he left office. And I was thankful. And but you know, Donald Trump's people, Donald Trump went and talked to them people, I guess. Miss Clinton them should have went and talked to those people. You should always talk to the people who producing your food, and find out what they need. And then don't just make them some promises. Go in there and make sure that you look out for them. Because by looking out for them, you're looking out for America. When you find people who are generation farmers, if I had my way, they'd be tax exempt. They sure would. How many people really want to be a rancher or a farmer and know how? They should not be worrying about nothing but raising beef. I'm not saying that they don't, when I say tax exempt, I'm talking about as long as they farming on that land, you shouldn't touch that. You should not attribute that land to the tax roll. As long as they farming on it, or raising, keeping it as a ranch, just tax their income. But don't take their property. Don't shut the ranch down. But when you got people who don't understand the whole picture, they have a Department of Agriculture that was set up to look out for them people. Now it's just a title, sound like to me. You know, I mean, it's you need to get back to basics, man. I mean, they don't care about each other no more. Everybody's for themselves now. And that's what America has fallen to. And that's what people like what Russia did. That's why they were successful. Because you were easy prey to put brother against brother, American against American. Everybody only concerned about themselves. So you promised this one that you're gonna do this for him, and he just looked the other way with what you're doing to somebody else. Long as he getting his. And let me show you. This is.
I know his kids are trying to make you look pretty. Get your ear pierced.
So Mitchell voted for Trump, a man he says he didn't even like, but who promised to get rid of the estate tax.
I think he's a buffoon. I think he's a blowhard. His policies will help us more, way more, than what Hillary Clinton would have. Voting for him helped me and my own out, and that's who I have to look out for. Me, my family, my parents, my community.
Mitchell introduced us to life here in Roberts County and what's important to the people who actually live here. But that's just one man's opinion.
You notice how he said that? He didn't say he'd help our country out. Me and my own. You don't elect a president for selfish reasons. You elect a president because you think he will do what is best for America, knowing that if he does what's best for America, you'll be all right. what may be good for an individual may not be good for a nation. But whatever is good for a nation is always good for every individual in it, because it levels the playing field. You see?
For 549 other voters in the county. So we'll come back to find out if his family and neighbors feel the same way that he does.
Oh, I want you to remember something. Remember what they used to tell you that Christian values are. And they would quote the Bible. Looking out for number one ain't one of them. Love your neighbor as yourself. Huh? He forgot that one. Wait, you're going to hear a lot of things. I'm trying to show you why you're suffering. God ain't never walked away from people. They walked away from God. The truth don't walk away from you. You walked away from the truth.
So we are back in Roberts County, Texas. Last time we were here, it has been 1 month in the Trump presidency. Now it's June, so it's been almost 5 months, and a lot has happened.
We will soon begin the construction of a great wall along our southern border. I issued an executive order to temporarily suspend immigration from places where it cannot safely occur.
I, Neil M. Gorsuch, solemnly swear.
An illegal executive order. You cannot discriminate against people because of their religious beliefs. Don't you know why the founding fathers put that in there? If I asked you why, you don't have the slightest clue. You think it was out of the goodness of their hearts? The founding fathers knew that nobody had a corner on religion. And if you get into the mode that you're going to start persecuting people because of their religion, what you going to do when the Son of Man show up? He going to have a different religion too. And when you jump on him, that's going to be the end of you. It's like the wise man in Jesus' day and time, them wise crooks said, now, if this man is not of God, what he doing gonna fail anyway. So we don't need to do nothing with him. But if he is of God and we fight him, we may find ourselves fighting against the power of God. Huh? So what they tell you to do about religion? Hands off. You notice, one of the greatest proofs that I have to you that I am the Son of Man is that you can't produce an argument against anything that I say. The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath day. That's written, and now you see the reality of it. And you listen now.
This is a repeal and a replace of Obamacare.
President Trump has informed FBI Director James Comey that he has been terminated.
Why did you fire Director Comey?
because he wasn't doing a good job.
Robert Mueller, the former director of the FBI, has been appointed to be the special counsel looking.
Did you hear what he just said? When he was asked, why did you fire Director Comey? He said, because he was not doing a good job. Well, by his standard, he should be fired. I want all of you all who mad because of what I just said. Is he the president of the Ku Klux Klan? Is he the president of the Nazi Party? Is he the president of groups that just, that love him? Or is he the president of the United States of America? Even by your own standards, you know you're not the majority of the people in this country. So when you only cater to a minority of people instead of the whole people, are you doing your job? Are you doing a good job? You see, your problem is you like what he's doing when he disrespects me. What if a president was in there disrespecting you? And if you do not approve of a president who disrespects your community, well, then you should not approve of a president who disrespects any community that's part of America. You notice when the head of the national director of the Ku Klux Klan came into my forum, did I disrespect him? Do you think I'm scared of you? I think you know better than that. But just because you don't like what a person stands for, don't mean you don't have to respect them and their right to stand for what they stand for. Because you want to be respected for the stand that you have taken. What, don't you? Well, then treat others like you want to be treated. But the rule of the majority of you is you treat others like you don't want to be treated. I've watched you. I mean, if you want to demonstrate, demonstrate. Why you got to be around here insulting everybody that's non-white or that's white that don't agree with you or whatnot? Why you got to hurl insults and threats to them?
To Russia's interference in the 2016 election.
The entire thing has been a witch hunt, and there is no collusion.
It's the first weekend of June, which means time for the annual Cow Calling Festival in Miami, the only town in Roberts County. And yes, that is the right way to say it.
All about the fun.
There's food, family fun, and a competition to imitate the old-fashioned way to call cattle.
Hi, how are you?
This is Steve Porter. He was one of last year's champions. Steve has lived in the Texas Panhandle his entire life.
They're gonna put me in the movie.
He served in the military, married his college sweetheart, and raised his kids in the neighboring town of Pampa. Everybody around here knows Steve, and everybody knows he loves to sing.
Somewhere in the west, I'll build a little nest and let the rest of the world go by.
Now retired, he spends most of his time tending his farm in Roberts County. He really liked Donald Trump's message, and he really disliked Hillary Clinton. His dog Buddy agreed.
Buddy, what do you think about Hillary?
Hillary? Hillary? Oh, what do you think about Hillary? Hillary? Oh, my goodness.
I feel that he is a strong leader, and he is putting forth a forceful image of our country, reform immigration, reform our medical system, reform our tax system.
Were you a fan of Mr. Trump's plan to build a physical wall?
Not really. I just never have believed that that wall is going to work. You know, I don't necessarily agree with everything he's done.
What do you disagree with?
I disagree with him doing those tweets without asking some of his smart people.
He ran on this idea of banning people from entering the country if they were Muslims. Did you agree with that?
It's not the most popular religion with me because what it's done is it's put its women down to a third rate.
You know that's not the religion as a whole, right? I mean, there are millions of Muslims right here in America who don't practice it that way.
Sure. My first roommate in college was full-blown Islamic. And his name was Fawaz, we called him Buzz. And every once in a while, you know, he'd throw out his little magic carpet there between our beds. And
his prayer rug?
Well, I called it his magic carpet, you know. I loved Fuzz. He told me all about his world of Saudi Arabia. And when I saw those planes, when I saw those planes fly into those buildings, and they said that they were Muslim, and I thought, that can't be people that are Fuzz's people. They gotta be like him. I was shocked.
5 minutes from Steve Porter's house, across the train tracks, we meet Sonia Lopez.
I'm Anna. Nice to meet you too.
Sonia immigrated from Mexico in 2005 to join her then boyfriend. They got married soon after. Their son Noel is now a junior at the local high school. Sonia says her family is one of just 2 Mexican-American families in town. Moving here, she says, was tough, but worth it.
Then I came and I was like thinking, if I like it over there, my English wasn't no good like now.
Speak any English?
Just a little bit. My English was big wall. And after I started learning, was wonderful.
Sonia runs her own cleaning business. She's not a U.S. citizen yet, so she couldn't vote in the last election. But her husband could, and he voted for Donald Trump.
For me, in my opinion, and I guess it's the opinion on all the people here, Hillary Clinton didn't show too much honesty, you know. People here, they are people that they have their own business, a cow business or cattle business, and they want the country growing, economic, you know.
When you heard Mr. Trump say things about
Mexican
people coming from Mexico, did it
I
bother
mean,
you at all?
I don't like nobody talk bad about anybody. The only concern to me is if he separated families, because a strong country is because they have a good family. And he's our president, but I pray for him to change his heart and his mind a little bit for a good.
So back when Mitchell told us that everyone here knows each other, he wasn't kidding. Sonia's house is about 5 minutes that way. Right here is where some of her clients, Aaron and Chad, live. Now, Aaron is Mitchell's sister, and she's married to Chad. He's a rancher like Mitchell, but he's also the mayor of Miami. You got all that? Chad and Aaron breeding were already raising teens Austin and Blake, Chad's kids from a previous marriage. Then, 8 weeks ago, these little guys, twins Lillian and Wyatt, arrived. So the whole town has been chipping in.
Our community is great. They brought us meals for, I think it was closer to a month.
We've heard so much from people here about community. Where does that community begin or end?
I think everybody in this country is generally a good person that would go out and help somebody in need and would bend over backwards to put food on a family's table if they needed it. But they completely resent being told, you're going to give me so much money so I can go over here and give these people this money.
Okay, so this is the itemized.
You see, he called his own argument a lie. If you would help people without being told, then what is the big deal if the government go ahead and put taxes together to make sure that programs that people who are less fortunate than you don't wind up living in poverty in the richest nation in the world? You remind me, America reminds me of when I was a child, when I was growing up. And I wasn't the only one. It was many of us, many, you stop at the living room when you go in people's house. Living room looked pretty decent. If you went past there, you started to see clothes all over the floor in people's bedroom, and the house was nasty. And you'd be ashamed to let your friends see it. That's why all of the freeways in America, they bypass the ghetto. They even put walls up so that you can't look over there and see some of the neglected areas. They can bring people to the airport and take them straight to the most beautiful parts of America. And people think that the whole country is like that. You can tell the degree of civilization, the degree of civilized knowledge that any nation has by how it treats those that it does not particularly like. It's just like suggesting that people who come to America as visitors or get caught doing something ain't got no business in America, that the Constitution does not apply to them. If the Constitution is worth anything, it must always apply to whoever you deal with, just like the Word of God. The Word of God is not just for the righteous. The Word of God is how the righteous treats everybody. I defy you to produce people that can accuse me of mistreating them. When did I mistreat you? When did I mistreat white people? When have I mistreated anybody? So don't try to say that the Constitution only applies to Americans. The Constitution is the code of conduct for the government of America and for those who believe in it. It's their code of conduct on how they conduct themselves with everybody. I thought you said, especially if you say you upholding it. If you're going to uphold it, you got to uphold it all the time. Not just when it's convenient. So but I mean, this just 900 people in there, but they telling you that it wasn't so much as that they thought President Trump was qualified. They liked what he was promising them, and they forgot that if you don't care what happens to the rest of the country, what make you think that little city that you living in gonna stay safe? Don't you know you cannot, you're not no island in this country? The way to protect any part of the country is to protect the whole country. If you don't see that, that show you how out of touch with reality you are, and your devils that you get, your evil thoughts, they're making evil fast seeming to you.
If that was just for me.
So money is definitely on Chad and Aaron's minds. And being able to afford health care for their growing family on a teacher's salary has Aaron stressed out.
Education funding is not what it was. So school districts, we're not getting our yearly raises, but our health insurance is going up every year. We're going broke paying healthcare premiums. I mean, broke. I can't be a stay-at-home mom because I have to work for insurance.
So yes, Chad and Aaron say cheaper healthcare would be great. So would tax cuts. And
then why are they not mentioning the Affordable Care Act? I mean, it's sad that people don't know what's going on in their country because they've shut everything out that except their own little world.
an estate tax repeal. That's why they voted for Trump. But they're not exactly hanging on every headline.
But there has not been an estate tax repeal. Because that's the wrong way to go after it. They could do something like what they did do with elderly people that own a home, and in Mississippi they become tax exempt after a certain age. They don't have to pay no property tax. Then when the children get it, then the property tax start over again. Now, this is something that I would suggest that you do. Is when you have, it's one thing to have a house seat and property taxes like that, but when you got some people that have millions of dollars worth of property because they are ranchers or farmers, and they are generational. I repeat, as I said earlier, you should not, you should have a set rate based on the income that they have. Charge them that and leave them alone. As long as they have land that is actually being used to feed America, why would you interrupt that? Why would you even want to tax them out of business? Show them that you care about them, and maybe they will show you that they care more about you, and maybe you will get back to where the FDA and all of these other people will be more than just a title. The farmers themselves will start saying, no, I'm not going to to shoot these cows up with this kind of stuff, and you here poisoning our people. I'm not going to do that. I remember that when I was growing up, you ain't hear about nobody having lactose intolerance. Because when you got milk, it was really milk. Wasn't no bunch of garbage that being shot up into the cow. You don't know how far you have fallen, you youngsters. That's why I'm so proud of these young people now that's standing up and saying enough is enough. We're not going to sit here. They turning 18. They come out of high school. They can vote. And they told them, we're going to fix you. Vote your behinds right out of there. And don't be deceived by them giving the Democrats what they asked for. Still vote them out of there. Everybody who on that Grover Norquist list, vote them out. And if the FBI would tell you, you would find that most of them, that everybody that's on that list, I bet you he's a millionaire now. Because he sold you out and then gave them the money back with that tax cut. Gave it back to the ones who paid them off. So whose pocket is it really come out of? Came out the government's pocket. Huh? After they raped your government. Bunch of traitors. That man called it right when he called Manafort. Had that sign of a traitor. How much did you get to sell your country out? I ain't got no stomach for none of them. But anyway, it's and believe me, don't you make the mistake of thinking this is some loyal slave to you. I ain't your slave. I'm your Lord. Yakub ain't my God. I'm his. You know, if you take sides with wrong, it's because you are wrong in your heart. Be careful who you side with. I should say, be careful what you side with. You don't burn down the house that you live in. I think common sense teach you that. Huh? And if that ain't enough for you, I think I got witnesses out there. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that we will not fight in any of your wars unless America herself is attacked. Now, America has been attacked by cyber attacks. That's a mental attack. So it's my duty to tell you how to defend yourself and to defend you if I can. And I can. If you'd get behind me and do the things that I tell you, wouldn't nobody be able to do nothing to you. I told you about these crooks in the government a long time before this stuff came out. When I saw that man stand up there and boast about his list, and if they sign the pledge, they get the government. I said, what in the world he think he's standing up here telling the people? And you didn't even have sense enough to know you had been insulted. Then Miss Low IQ, Sarah Palin come out there, Putin playing chess. And if you ask her what's meant by that, she's just parakeeting what she heard somebody else say. But it's just like when Janice Dickinson came out there and said, women, you have power. You don't know how powerful you are. We are the stronger race. You remember her saying that? I still got it. That wasn't her talking. That was her handlers talking. The people who call themselves going to defame Bill Cosby. All a white woman had to do is just say a nigger raped her. Huh? You don't know your power. Told you was going to get it back. Where did they get that accusation? That's what they've been doing. The casting couch. You want a part in this movie? Come on here and do right by me, and I'll get you a part in the movie. Huh? You notice ain't nobody brought no evidence like that out against Dr. Cosby. These women brought evidence on these men, didn't they? Because it really happened. They just projected what they've been doing on the man who wasn't doing it and was telling them them sisters that was out there that would come to visit him and tried to set him up. He said, look at yourself. You're beautiful. You don't have to do this. Julie Allison told on herself. She said he stood up in front of a mirror and told her, look at you, you're glowing. That didn't make no sense unless he was telling her, look at you, you're beautiful, you're glowing, and why you come here to try to seduce me? Then he put her out. He run around telling them you don't need to let yourself be used like this. And the big boys didn't like that. You don't hear nobody arguing with me about it, do you? So, I mean, you just, if you enlighten your people, you don't have to worry about people manipulating them through garbage. Because they'll be able to spot the garbage and push it on the side. Who is this person that's saying this? It's just a voice talking. But this man said he believed that he don't want nobody telling him what he really, a lot of things he wasn't saying there. He didn't like the idea that a black man had the idea, which it wasn't even President Obama's idea. National health care had been tried by many presidents. And they couldn't get it through, and they was white. Then you get national health care, and you talking about most Americans. Listen to what he said.
See what happens.
I mean, there's some.
And he's our president, but I pray for him to
We've heard so much from people here about community. Where does that community begin or end?
I think everybody in this country is generally a good person that would go out and help somebody in need and would bend over backwards to put food on a family's table if they needed it. But
so what is he saying? He's saying that it's the right thing to do. Then what do you mean you don't? So you're saying that you would do it. Then why get mad when the president said, let's do it? Well, I mean, y'all run around here, you go to church, and you sit up in there with your hypocritical behinds, talking about, the Bible says you're supposed to love your neighbor as yourself. Oh, really? Then why don't you? Your child gets sick. You like them to have health care. Your wife gets sick. You like them to have health care. Your mama gets sick. You like her to have health care. Your uncle, your auntie. In other words, anybody that's in your immediate family, you think that they should have good health care if needed. Then why are you objecting to other people having the same? The book of James said, it talks about you. This the book of James. I know it's just a little bitty book. It ain't but about 4 or 5 chapters in it. But he sure had your number. Let's see here. In James, if I can find it here, give me a minute. When I be looking for these little books, I always pass them up. Here it is. Book of James. It says, I think it's around there. What? This is the 2nd chapter. It says, this is the 8th verse. We're going to start at the 8th verse. It says, if you fulfill the royal law, remember the messengers of God were all kings to everybody else. They were royal. We sent no messenger, but that he should be what? Obey. The head of every man is the messenger of God. And it says, if you fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, thou shalt thy neighbor as what? As thyself. You do well if you fulfill that. But if you have respect to persons, you commit sin. Oh, so you particular about who you gonna love as yourself. Huh? Love is an action word. That's why I asked you, do you want your family to be able to get health care? Then why you don't think everybody else's family should get health care? Tell me something. What does a corporation do? What does the Walmart chain do? They buy low. Why are they able to buy low? they buy in large quantities, huh? Everybody understands that principle. Then why didn't you understand that the principle behind national health care, the Affordable Care Act, was buy low? If everybody in on it, it don't cost as much. Huh? And some of y'all, you know, I could say something. I ain't gonna get on you in front of the public like this, but you know, these telephones, y'all had a opportunity, and then you start taking misadvantage. But the point is, if everybody's buying insurance at an affordable rate, then nobody has to be turned down when they get sick. Because the money's steady rolling in, and the insurance companies don't have to put no limit on how much they're going to spend on you, just whatever you're going, because that money's steady coming in. It ain't nobody really missing it. But anyway, let's go on. It says, but if you have respect to persons, you commit sin and are convinced of the law or convicted of the law. Now you know when they use the word convinced, it means convicted of the law as transgressors. For whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. Why? Because the law can't be broken. It's all one. Huh? You don't find that out until you live it. And as you live it, then you start to see that by doing that, can't nobody charge you with anything. Huh? Then it says, for he that said, do not commit adultery, said also, do not kill. Now, if thou commit no adultery, yet if thou kill, thou art become a transgressor of the law. So speak ye, and so do, as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty, the law of freedom. For he shall have judgment without mercy that have showed no mercy. Listen to that one good, because that's what these people are guilty of in that town, Roberts. They don't care nothing about nobody but themselves. They want mercy, but they don't mind having an unmerciful tyrant in the White House as long as he promised them something. How come ain't nobody saying nothing to me? How come ain't nobody defending their position? It's not because I won't let you talk. It's because you know I'm going to have some questions for you that's going to, as this, you remember what the police been saying to us all our lives? You have the right to remain silent. And if you give up that right, anything you say can and will be used against you. Huh? Now you see why everybody's silent when I'm talking. Remember the man came in here and said he didn't believe in Master Farad Muhammad? What happened when I made him define God? Who did his definition condemn? Yeah. Then it says, I'll give him this. At least he had sense enough to, I think he had sense enough to shut his mouth. He had sense enough to know he had condemned himself. Some people, well, you find out that they definitely are fools because they don't even have sense enough to know when they done lost. Anyway, what doth it profit, my brethren, though a man say he hath faith and have no works, have not works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, And one of you say unto them, depart in peace, be ye warm and filled. Notwithstanding, you give them not those things which are needful to the body. What doth it profit? That's what that man just actually said himself. I think everybody in the country would be willing to help somebody. We just don't want to be told to. Well, then you just made null and void what you say you believed. How do you know what a person don't mind doing? Ask them. Ask them to do it. And if they don't mind doing it, then they won't cry foul. Because I'd have did it anyway. It's just like the law. I don't feel insulted because the law is there. Because I'm not going to break the law no way. So even if they say you can't kill, what? I'm supposed to get mad? You can't steal. I'm supposed to be mad because it's the law? They're ordering you not to do it? I wasn't going to do it no way. And if you were going to help the poor, why are you upset when somebody say, let's help the poor? It's because you're a liar.
They completely resent being told, you're going to give me so much money so I can go over here and give these people this money.
Okay, so this is the itemized. That was just for me.
So money is definitely on Chad and Aaron's minds. And being able to afford health care for their growing family on a teacher's salary has Aaron stressed out.
Too bad America wasn't on their mind, huh?
Education funding is not what it was. So school districts, we're not getting our yearly raises, but our health insurance is going up every year. We're going broke paying healthcare premiums. I mean, broke. I can't be a stay-at-home mom because I have to work for insurance.
So yes, Chad and Aaron say cheaper healthcare would be great. So would tax cuts and an estate tax repeal. That's why they voted for Trump. But they're not exactly hanging on every headline to see what happens.
I mean, there's some things where I'm like, this again, and I'll change the channel. What makes you go, like the Comey stuff? Like, I really don't care. It doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Really, it's boring to me.
Kind of like Days of Our Lives. You can watch it this week. And then if you miss the whole week, you can start over next week. You really haven't missed anything.
Here, their country is under attack, and they comparing it to a soap opera. Because they've put themselves in a bubble and don't understand the very thing that's keeping them safe and has made their lives more fruitful and put them in a position where they can ranch and all of that kind of stuff is the government that was set up to help them to have these things. And they don't see nothing, no problem with the president working inside of the government to tear up the government. But somehow they going to stay safe. They just worried about keeping their ranch. And when the news come up, turn. I don't want to look at it. I saw cartoons like that. This train coming in this. Now, ostriches don't do that, but they showing an ostrich stick his head in a hole with his behind up in the air, showing how some people are. You think because you stop looking at the news that that's going to make what's happening not be happening? Now, I want to show you something that that made me feel proud. You see, This is where hope coming from. Let's see here.
Everybody decided, we know how this is going to end up. We know that the politician's going to say thoughts and prayers. They're going to say those words, and that's all they're going to do. And that's not what we want to happen this time around. We want this to stop. We've seen this before. It's time to break the pattern. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
That was it.
Now, I want you to remember. You see, because, I mean, they ain't babies. They about 18, ready to come out, and something gonna change. Now, if you think that things finna stay the same, no, they ain't. No, they ain't finna stay the same. Let me show you what's really going on here. This what's finna happen. Let's see here. To show you the difference in the mind. There she is. Same little sister, ain't it? Now watch this. Just a minute. Let me. The same little lady.
They haven't already had a moment of silence in the House of Representatives, so I would like to have another one. Thank you. Every single person up here today, all these people should be at home grieving. But instead, we are up here, getting together because if all our government and president can do is send thoughts and prayers, then it's time for victims to be the change that we need to see.
Now, let's get an update here.
President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama sent a handwritten letter to the survivors of the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, which killed 17 people. The website Mike got a copy of the Obama's letter, and it is very moving. It reads, to the students of Parkland, we wanted to let you know how inspired we've been by the resilience, resolve, and solidarity that you have all shown in the wake of unspeakable tragedy. Not only have you supported and comforted each other, but you've helped awaken the conscience of the nation and challenged decision makers to make the safety of our children the country's top priority. Throughout our history, young people like you have led the way in making America better. There may be setbacks, you may sometimes feel like progress is too slow in coming, but we have no doubt you're going to make an enormous difference in the days and years to come, and we will be there for you. And it's signed Barack and Michelle Obama. Mr. and Mrs. Obama wrote that letter to Parkland just ahead of school walkouts around the country for gun reform. Now, in just a few days, on Saturday, more than 500,000 Americans are expected at a rally against gun violence in Washington, D.C., with another 800 satellite demonstrations planned, not just around the country, but around the world, from Boise, Idaho to Munich, Germany. Students of Parkland came up with the idea, and they have been the driving force behind it, this March for Our Lives this week. Joining us now are 3 students from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High who have been forces of nature in terms of making the March for Our Lives a national movement. Emma Gonzalez, Jack Corn, and Sarah Chadwick. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm really honored to meet you, all 3 of you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So let me ask you first about that compliment from the president and the former president and the former first lady. And I know that you've heard it from not just them, but a lot of people feel like you're sort of not just impressive, you're sort of the hope. I wonder if that feels more than just good. I wonder if that feels stressful.
Yeah, his letter was much appreciated. He's shown so much respect that a lot of current politicians have not shown. So it was much appreciated, and we all have hope because we've seen it from kids younger than us also. And I think our generation is going to be the change because we've grown up with this, and we're not going to let the future generations grow up with it also.
And at the same time, it's really stressful because we have all this pressure on our shoulders to make a change, and we're only teenagers. And we shouldn't have to be the ones who have to make this change. It should be the politicians who are in power right now. But unfortunately, it's fallen down to our shoulders. But now that we do have this responsibility, we're going to make sure that we get it done.
It's interesting, though. The reason that pressure is on you guys is because you earned it in a way. It's not an automatic thing that kids who are survivors of some tragedy, like what happens at your school, are expected to then become leaders of a national movement around it. You guys made that happen yourselves in the way that you decided to respond. And I guess I want some insight into how that happened and why your school was the place where it came out that way.
It kind of started with David. He really pushed for speaking with Fox, speaking with anyone who would listen, anyone who was actually at the school. He just kept the door open enough for the rest of us to show up. And he gave people's names, and Cameron showed up, and Alex showed up, and everyone who's a part of the movement now was there. Everybody decided, we know how this is going to end up. We know that the politician's going to say thoughts and prayers. They're going to say those words, and that's all they're going to do. And that's not what we want to happen this time around. We want this to stop. We've seen this before. It's time to break the pattern. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And if there are people who think that there are mentally ill people who are quote-unquote crazy, who don't deserve to have guns, and maybe those people who are claiming that thoughts and prayers are the only things that can solve this, and yet also claim that the Second Amendment is the most important thing to them rather than children's lives, well, maybe they should get a background check. And Parkland is a community with an immense amount of togetherness. Like communities like Orlando and Las Vegas, it wasn't a centralized location that had happened, and all the people couldn't relate to each other and join together for a common goal. But that's something that Marjorie Stoneman Douglas did have, and we can also thank our education. We've grown up with amazing teachers and amazing faculty that we have the ability to use the voices that they helped create to make the change.
There have been some unexpected changes. I say unexpected from the big perspective in terms of policy. Since you...
to show up, and he gave people's names, and Cameron showed up, and Alex showed up, and everyone who's a part of the movement now was there. Everybody decided, we know how this is going to end up. We know that the politician's going to say thoughts and prayers. They're going to say those words, and that's all they're going to do. And that's not what we want to happen this time around. We want this to stop. We've seen this before. It's time to break the pattern. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And if there are people who think that...
Now, I want to say to our young brothers and sisters, when you are speaking, especially speaking truth to people, they already don't half listen. So slow down, purposely slow down, and say what you need, what you know need to be said. You know, I can't slow this down because it's on the television, but I'll probably get it off of the air and let you hear her plainly. But you know, it's a good thing that's being done, and it needs to be something that is heard. It needs to be clear. And try your best to take your emotions out of it, even though it's an emotional subject, and speak plainly, slowly, and you know, I got your back. I promise you, I'm with you. You know, the worst thing that the American people could do at this point in time is everybody buying guns. In a day and time when people's minds, you just heard about a woman beat her baby to death because trying to potty train the baby and got mad. You don't need no guns. You got people out on the street, road rage. You don't need no gun. You can walk away from a fist fight, But, you know, I know certain things got to happen. It's going to happen. But it don't stop me from warning you. If you want to live, get rid of your gun. The scripture says, he that taketh the sword shall perish thereby. The sword was the main means of fighting and killing. In the day of Jesus, they didn't have guns. They had swords. But now, they used to have a saying, he that lived by the gun shall die by the gun. Now, if you want to be around to see a better world, act like it. If you want that better world to show up, then you can start with the man in the mirror. Take a look at yourself. An honest look at yourself. And make a change. The first change we need to make is to quit viewing our neighbors as though they are something other than a human being. I mean, I heard Grover Norquist stand up there and say those on the left are competing parasites. I couldn't believe the people was sitting there just eating that up. That's the first thing you have to do when you want to do an inhumane act to another human being. You have to convince yourself that the other human being is something other than a human being. That's how people got put on trial for crimes against humanity. Because they convinced themselves that the people that they were mistreating, they convinced themselves that they were justified because the people they were mistreating were not human. Their devils made their evil fair seeming to them. So these young people should be encouraged. But understand this, from the looks of it, they are not going to be discouraged no matter how old you are or who you are. Reminds me of somebody else when they was that age. Reminds me of me. When I made up my mind about something, it was just like when I told them I was through with the military. I didn't care what they did or said. When I said I was through, I was through. You know, so I'm happy to see the spirit of Allah moving into the young people. And I mean, that makes me just happy as I can be. It's I got to play their theme song. Because that is a wonderful thing that these young people are doing. If you're smart, you'll get on board.
So You gotta make way for the young folks. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. They say yes, and you say no. They ask you why, and you close the door. My old friend, I thought you knew by now. You can't do that to the young folks. Oh, no, 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 no. You might not like it, but I've got to say, gotta make way for the young folks. Yeah, 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 yeah. They're marching with signs. They're standing in line. Yeah. I'm testing your right to turn off the light in their life. Here's the deal. Accept it if you will. Now we're not strong. It's their time to live. My old friend, I thought you knew by now. You gotta make way for the young folks. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. You may not like it, but I've got to tell you. You gotta make way. You gotta make way for the young folks. You may not like it, but I've got to tell you.
Now I can't hear you good.
Now, it's just like I have told you before with, you know, the word of God ain't going to be made a lie out of. You know what Moses did? Moses, he let the elders of Israel wander around in the wilderness until they all died. And then he led the children. You heard the term children of Israel? Yeah. All right. Them young people think like me. They sick of your mess. And they're going to put a stop to it. And if you know what's good for you, you'll leave them alone. Suffer the little children to come unto me and forbid them not, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. So, like I told you, I got time. I can wait. Can you? How many of y'all can say that? You got time. Yeah. So, I'm just proud as I can be to see them being filled with the Spirit of Allah. So, she called it just like it is. Our prayers is with you. what she said. That's what they always talk about, their prayers and their best wishes is with you, and then go back up there and do nothing. If you in the lawmaking body, you ain't got to just pray over it. You in a position to change it. If you want it to. Anyway, I'm just I'm gonna let you hear something else. All this stuff is coming out.
My view is that when it comes down in White Houses, generally between the argument on principle, we're upset that he's too friendly to Putin, versus the argument on vanity, we're upset that he ignored my advice, it's almost always vanity that is the thing that's driving people in these instances.
And that Price, it can be both. It can be, that's true. It can be people who are upset that the advice wasn't followed, but also believe it was really important and good advice, and they want to get the message out that there are people in this White House who don't think like the president.
Well, that's exactly right, Lawrence. I think the complicating factor in all of this, as we know, this White House is a snake pit, and it's hard to disentangle one leak from the next, and especially when you look to motivation. On some days...
What did he say? Is what? You remember Donald Trump stood up and read the snake? And you knew he was a snake when you elected him. That's why you don't hardly hear nobody talking about him. You can tell how many people voted for him. Even around here, you don't hear nobody talking about but me. I don't know if some of y'all sitting in here might have went up there and voted for him. It ain't no big thing. But now you see. I mean, you vote for who you want. I'm not trying to tell you who you got to vote for, but I'm telling you who I'm voted for. Now, if you wanted to vote for him, well, you got him. And he about to get you. If Allah don't step in. Oh, and by the way, you can start something with them nuclear things if you wanted. The mothership's still out there. And if you think you're going to attack this country, or if you think you're going to make the earth uninhabitable, you in for a rude awakening, boy. We ain't finna let you tear up our planet.
Sanity on fewer days, far few days, I think it's principle. This leak is interesting, though, and I think this may, in fact, be one of those leaks of principle for a couple reasons. When you look at that Washington Post description of the sources, it describes them as two officials familiar with the note card. There was no denigration of other officials. It was just a very simple leak that the president failed to heed the headline of that note card. And when you read that headline, it's also important to note that it doesn't seem like they leaked any classified information. Do not congratulate is an unclassified statement. There's nothing all that sensitive in there, especially when President Trump himself, before this story came out, said that he had spoken with Vladimir Putin. So I think, unlike most leaks in this White House, there actually is a more compelling case that maybe this was done on principle, maybe this was done by people who were seeking to do right, people who were remembering the oath that they took to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. They could see a threat from the inside here.
Ned, let me go back over one point there, because there has been these comments today indicating that this is classified material, the president's briefing material for a call with the president of Russia. So any leak of that could even be illegal. But were you making the point that I just hear you make the point that there can be material
within those files that is not classified, especially if it's a separate card that simply says do not congratulate. And since that's not classified material, that would not be a violation.
Well, look, Lawrence, it's a little bit complicated, but typically how this works is you have a briefing package for the president, and that briefing package, when the president talks to a foreign counterpart, the entire package will be classified typically secret or top secret. But individual snippets, discrete snippets within that package can in fact be unclassified. And to me, the headline "Do not congratulate" seems unclassified. It would be classified if they were seeking to keep this call.
You know what? The mere fact that they keep talking about classified and top secret and all of that kind of thing, the president himself been leaking stuff when he let all of them people who couldn't get top security clearances look at top secret material. He had no business with none of them people in there looking at the top secret things. Jared Kushner and his daughter and all of them, they didn't get no top secret clearance. So what was they doing looking at top secret information? Let me show you something else.
Secret, if they want.
Who the he is, the entire world.
I think he's afraid of the president of Russia. So what's the most amazing thing about that statement by President Obama's CIA Director, John Brennan? I think the most amazing thing about it is that we all know who he's talking about, even though John Brennan didn't say a name. He just said, I think he's afraid of the president of Russia. And we all know who the he is. The entire world knows who the he is, because the entire world for the last year has been wondering why the president of the United States talks and behaves as if he is afraid of the president of Russia, the very first president of the United States in history to appear to be afraid of the president of Russia. John Brennan is a former director of the CIA. He is now an NBC News and MSNBC senior national security intelligence analyst. As a former director of the CIA, he knows a lot more than he is saying all the time. It's one thing for you to say you think Trump is afraid of the president of Russia. It's one thing for me to say I think Trump is afraid of the president of Russia, which I've said many times, but that is nothing. It's nothing when I say it compared to a former director of the CIA saying that. I think he's afraid of the president of Russia. Why? Well, I think one can speculate as to why. That the Russians may have something on him personally that they could always roll out and make his life more difficult. Clearly, I think it's important for us to be able to improve relations with Russia. But the fact that he has had this fawning attitude toward Mr. Putin has not said anything negative about him. I think it continues to say to me that he does have something to fear. He's acting more and more like a cornered animal and lashing out in whatever way he can. And who knows what that cornered animal will do once they really see the threat to their survival. John Brennan began speaking on Morning Joe this morning at 7:03 a.m. He was interrupted by the next commercial break at 7:18 a.m. At 7:11 a.m., right in the middle of what John Brennan had to say, the President of the United States tweeted a quote from Harvard Law School professor Alan Dershowitz. Special counsel is told to find crimes, whether a crime exists or not. I was opposed to the selection of Mueller to be special counsel. I am still opposed to it. I think President Trump was right when he said there never should have been a special counsel appointed because there was no probable cause for believing that there was any crime, collusion, or otherwise, or obstruction of justice. So stated by Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz. The misspelling of the word counsel in the president's tweet is not the fault of Professor Dershowitz, but of course the fault of the President of the United States, who has been guilty of more public misspellings than any.
And Mr. Dershowitz must have forgot about the interview where President Trump said the reason he fired Comey was because of the Russia thing. I mean, what if there was nothing to find? then why was he in a hurry to fire Mr. Comey? And, you know, I mean, you know, it's just now that I found out that one of the people was communicating with a officer of the Kremlin under the name Gucci or Gucci or something. I said, boy, this is something here. This rabbit hole don't end, do it? Well, I guess Putin been playing chess, been putting his men in different spots. Huh? Yeah. Let's see here. I think I got some more here. Let's see here. Now,
did he resign or was he fired? That was the question today about Donald Trump's lead criminal defense lawyer, John Dodd. Or we could also ask, did he resign because he knew he was going to be fired? And it doesn't make any difference. In Trump world, everyone is on the verge of being fired all the time. And if they pull the trigger on themselves first, what difference does that make? But on the day that the president lost his lead criminal defense lawyer, the investigation of Russian interference in our election has taken a new and important turn. The Daily Beast reports Guccifer 2.0, the lone hacker who took credit for providing WikiLeaks with stolen emails from the Democratic National Committee, was in fact an officer in Russia's military intelligence directorate. The Russian agent reportedly left a digital trail that allowed U.S. investigators to identify him as a particular GRU officer working out of the agency's headquarters in Moscow. According to the...
Do you know who's been strangely quiet? If this is a lie, how come Putin now ain't out there talking about it's a lie? I mean, what? But Putin been strangely quiet. See, they got the goods on him, man. I mean, they've been telling it all the time. Putin playing chess. Okay, let's listen to this.
Daily Beast, Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller has taken over the probe into Guccifer and brought the FBI agents who worked to track the persona onto his team. At least one Trump associate communicated directly with Guccifer 2.0. Roger Stone admitted in a blog post last March that he had been in touch with Guccifer 2.0 over Twitter direct messages. Mika Oyang and David Korn will join the discussion next about the chaos in the Trump legal team today and this new report about Roger Stone's contact with a Russian agent. I would like... That is a pathological liar saying... I'm the Special Counsel Robert Mueller, sir. Thank you. You would like to, sir? Remember, that is a pathological liar saying, I would like to testify to Robert Mueller. Joining us now, Mika Oyang, a former House Intelligence Committee staffer and Director of National Security Program at the Third Way. David Korn is back with us. And Mika, I want to get your reaction to the shakeup in the Trump criminal defense team at a critical point in the investigation of this case. Is this going to slow it down?
I don't think it'll slow down the investigation at all. It does show that they may be changing direction. It may slow down just because of the chaos of who's involved in the legal team. You went from John Dowd, who seemed to know what he was doing and had a lot of experience trying these kinds of cases, to someone who hasn't had a lot of recent criminal defense experience, whose experience is much more limited to speaking about these things on television. So when you're dealing with real lawyers and real emotions, he may have trouble handling those things.
David Corey, I want to get your reaction to this report tonight about the Guccifer 2.0. This puts Roger Stone in direct contact with a Russian agent.
It does. And, you know how much I hate talking about my book, Lawrence, but the title of the book, as I recall, is Russian Roulette. Yes, yeah. And so it's quite fortunate how much news there is about it this week. But, you know, in the book, Michael Isikoff and I talk about or describe how Stone, you know, in the summer of 2016, was saying he was in touch with Julian Assange, was in touch with Guccifer. And one of the most interesting things was that in August of 2016, when everybody was basically saying, you know, Guccifer seems to be a Russian internet persona, not a real Romanian hacker as he claimed to be, Stone wrote an article for who else but Breitbart saying that everything was wrong, the hacker was real, he was Romanian, you could trust Roger Stone on this. And of course, he was just blowing smoke. But what he was doing, as we see now clearly, he was basically participating in a cover-up to protect a Russian military intelligence officer who was part of a plan to attack the United States. I mean...
Well, I told him, you got people that are sitting up there in Congress and all over this. I mean, you talk about, here I heard a Supreme Court Justice, Antonin Scalia. He said if people want to put as much money as they want in the into elections, that's freedom of speech. And laughed. I mean, I got the joke. You know, they say money talks. Well, that's freedom of speech. He felt emboldened to be able to say that. You know, God don't like ugly. You know, God didn't say that Russia was going to judge America. He said, and also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, since I brought them into being. You know, you can't judge another man's servant. You forgot something. When it all started off, you know what the jinn said to his maker? He said, my Lord, as you have judged me to be this way, the messenger kind of hinted to it in 74 when he said, well, if you say you are righteous, then prove it. He said, and if you say he's not righteous, he will say, I was not my maker. And that'll stop your mouth. Huh? Because he could easily tell you, you made me yourself. Huh? Don't punish me for being what you made me. So the scripture, it plainly says, who is he that judgeth another man's servant? America ain't served, what didn't come into existence by being the servant of Russia. It came into existence by serving God's purpose. And you ain't going to take it out of existence. If it go out of existence, God will do it. And he didn't put me here to destroy them. He put me here to try to save them. As he told me. And I finally got the message. The Son of Man came not to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And then I read where Jesus said. He said, I have not lost any, but the son of perdition. That's the devil himself. The one who's, if you follow him all of the way, he will damn you, because his knowledge will lead you to your destruction. He's called the son of perdition, S-U-N, not S-O-N. They spell it S-O-N, but it should have been spelled S-U-N, because he's the son of perdition. He gives light of understanding. Who gave you the knowledge of how to make crack? White white people did. They even got you tricked into thinking that you know, when you make an excuse for a person making a bad choice, and you turn their bad choice into a fictitious disease, then you are making what they doing fair seeming to them because you've told them it ain't their fault. You understand? Let me show you what he did. This is what his mind teaches him. You know, they make lots of money off of drugs. Okay. He tells white people now, he didn't used to say that drug addiction was a disease when it wasn't number mostly us doing it. But now he got his people doing it, and it's done made it circle. You know what goes around. Any fool knows that if something going around, it's going to make a circuit back to you. Huh? And so now he telling people who made a bad choice. Being a drug head is a choice. It's not a disease. When you catch a cold, that's not a choice. That's a disease. But when you started doing drugs, you chose to keep doing it until as you built up a habit, you notice it took more and more. It's just like if you drink a little bit at first, a couple of shots, and you maybe one shot, and you feel a little tipsy. You keep doing that, your body builds up a resistance to it. Then it takes more. And you keep on, then you mess around there and hook yourself on it because you chose to do it. And the sad thing, the bad thing about convincing yourself that it's a disease that you had no control over, then they've taken away your choice to quit. But as long as you understand that it was your choice, then you can choose to stop. See, you got to have a made up mind, though. Like me, when I drank and smoked up until I was 22 years old. When I started drinking beer, when I started working with some of these older men, they give me a little beer, and pretty soon I started drinking beer and everything else that when I was doing maintenance work with them, working, buying my own clothes and stuff. And so I did that up until I got out of the Marine Corps. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I was smoking about a pack and a half a day. And depending on how much I was, that rum and coke I was drinking. And, when I drank, I smoked even more. But when I was introduced to Islam, I was told that you can't be a Muslim and smoking and drinking. So I had another choice I had to make. I chose Islam. I chose to be a Muslim. So I stopped smoking and drinking at the same time. And I made up my mind that I was going to be a Muslim, and I didn't want that no more. I mean, I grew up eating pig, and I liked smoked sausage, and I liked pork sausage. It doesn't mean lying about it. They even used to like pickled pig feet. But when I was told Muslims can't eat that. I stopped. And I did not miss it no more. Anything you started in the way of consuming, you can stop. And don't let nobody tell you different. You don't need no 12-step program or nothing else. Trust me, you don't need that. All you need is a made-up mind that you ain't gonna do it no more. So, leave that stuff alone. Let me let you see one more little clip here. Y'all bear with me at the station there.
Meanwhile, march on. Hundreds of thousands of young people are arriving here in the nation's capital for tomorrow's March for Our Lives with one simple message for our country's leaders.
America, we are your future. Why won't you protect us?
They are the future generation. But let me tell you something. You got some people that are so self-consumed, so self-preoccupied, that they can't even stand the thought. They can't even stand the thought of the country and the world continuing to exist without them. I know you don't believe it. I'm just telling you. If they could, if they got to go, they'd like to take everybody with them. You better wake up. Oh, don't worry. You know, if you know, you don't want Allah to have to step in and put a stop to it, because there's going to be a lot of you lost if he have to step in. Allah don't go after persons. Allah goes after right and wrong. If your mind ain't right, it don't make no difference. If your mind ain't right when the time to bring an end to the wrong on the earth, everybody with the wrong mind got to go. You can fool some of the people all of the time, and all of the people some of the time. But you can't fool Allah none of the time. Mm-hmm. I'm just telling you. You were told, let this mind be in you that was also in Christ. I'm offering you a better mind. And I'm proving to you that it's a better mind because all of the minds that you see on this planet, thus far, you haven't been able to produce one that can hold a candle in an argument against me. I told you I'm the only one that understands these books. All right. and I'm gonna.
So you have a question?
Yes.
From Doja, and he wants to know, why did Elijah Muhammad and How to Eat to Live say that we should not eat kale?
Why did he say what?
That we should not eat kale.
Spell it.
K-A-L-E.
Kale? Because Allah told him we shouldn't eat it. I didn't ask why. I just did what he told me. I ain't, I wasn't particular about eating kale. No way. I ain't. I got a pretty simple diet. I don't need to know a whole lot of everything that's edible. I'm not trying to be no connoisseur in every edible thing. I just, I'm simple. I eat me some bean soup, muffins, fish, cauliflower, and little broccoli from time to time. I love spinach, and I'm good to go. That's one thing that when Allah tells me something, when I believe that he was the messenger of God, I stop asking why. I just heard and obeyed. You see? That's one thing that you learn once you trust God. Time to stop asking why. Because if he thought you needed to know why, he'd have told you. If you understand what I'm saying. So, and I'm not trying to be facetious or nothing. But no, I never did ask him why we don't eat kale. He told us what's good to eat and what's not. Just like, the scripture says the hog is unclean. You shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. Well, okay. He told us don't eat nuts. If you just must eat some nuts, eat sunflower seeds or something like that. But them nuts, they act like sandpaper in your stomach. They don't. Your digestive system actually wasn't made to digest those things. They wear out the lining of your stomach. And so he told us to leave those things alone. And so I used to like cashews and other nuts, peanuts. I used to put peanuts in my soda pop. But I stopped because he said, don't eat them. So I stopped eating them. The response of the believers when they hear the messages of Allah is that we hear and we obey. Period. You see, the Christian used to, when I was used to hear some Christians say, God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. That's that. That's no question. Not about that. He knew better how to eat to live than me. I didn't know nothing about how to eat to live. I'd been eating poison all my life. So, but the short answer is I never did ask him why. And to this day, if I studied up on kelp, I probably could tell you why. And kale, I should say. But it have never been no big thing to me because I ain't never liked a lot of that stuff no way. I didn't like collard greens. I didn't like none of that stuff. My mother and them used to eat. At least a lot of the stuff they used to eat, I didn't like no pig ears. I didn't like no pig tails. I didn't like no, a whole lot of stuff I didn't like. But I ain't gonna lie, I used to eat up some pork sausage. I didn't particularly care for pork chops. But but now I don't eat no pig. Matter of fact, I don't even eat beef no more. I just, I eat fish. Of course, I don't condemn people that eat beef, but I would say be careful if you're going to eat it, I would buy it from the Jewish people. Get you some of that kosher beef, if you're going to get it. If you're not going to raise your own and butcher them properly and whatnot. The Jewish people, they know how to, those who practice in their religion. You know, yeah. Any more questions?
Yes, sir. May Allah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum ala salam.
Hey, I remember like last class, you played a little clip with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump at a thing.
Yeah.
So you rewinded for us and you said, look at this. Look how he says, no puppet, no puppet. And then, you know, as I started looking at that, then I started understanding the Russian people and their mastery of hypnosis.
Well, I would not say mastery of hypnosis. There's no, actually, I don't believe in what they call hypnotism.
Yes.
I believe in, I know you can be looking at a movie and it can captivate you to the point where you can't hear nothing else around you. But generally, people with not a lot of substance, with not a lot of understanding in their minds, are easily captivated by nothing, because nothing can appear to be something to someone who is not who is weak in the mind as far as having an understanding of the truth. You know, the best protection that you have against being captivated or captured by false knowledge is to know the truth. Because once you really know the truth, you are free from being captivated by anything. You may choose to listen to a thing, but while you are listening, you are reasoning within yourself. Because of the truth that you know, you are able to reason whether or not what you are listening to is worth anything. But a person that does not, most people think because they haven't heard something before, they will take it in and it may sound good to them and they will lay hold to it before they know how to check it. But Islam is like math. Islam goes as far back as the root of mathematics. And if you understand in math, there's no such thing as having to settle for an answer on its face. You can check it and prove that it's true before you move on. That's the way Islam is. That's the way the truth is. When you know the truth, you can prove everything. That's why you don't find anybody coming in here call themselves arguing with me. You know, not really. You know, you may find an ignorant person that's jealous and want to try to show off, and that shows his, stupidity. You when a man knows that he knows what he's talking about, you can't intimidate him. I know what I'm talking about. And so, it's just like I have that clip that I showed you. And the people who this is a better clip of it that I'm about to show you, because it actually shows them on stage, not just their faces by each other, but it shows them on stage. And just a moment. I guess I can.
The Russian government has engaged in espionage against Americans. They have hacked American websites, American accounts of private people, of institutions. Then they have given that information.
Now, here's the woman that they call Crooked. When she was running, she was sounding the alarm that the Russians had hacked into people's accounts and whatnot. Now you finding out that she told you the truth.
information to WikiLeaks for the purpose of putting it on the internet. This has come, government has engaged in espionage against Americans. The Russian government has engaged in espionage against Americans. They have hacked American websites, American accounts of private people, of institutions. Then they have given that information to WikiLeaks for the purpose of putting it on the internet. This has come from the highest levels of the Russian government, clearly from Putin himself, in an effort, as 17 of our intelligence agencies have confirmed, to influence our election. So I actually think the most important question of this evening, Chris, is fine.
Now remember, you called her a liar. And she was the Secretary of State, and she knew exactly what she was talking about. They knew it. They warned you, and you didn't believe her. Instead, you believed total strangers. You believed gossip and innuendo and a liar named Donald Trump. Now, he's referred to by the news media as a pathological liar. And watch his comeback when he finally says something.
Will Donald Trump admit and condemn that the Russians are doing this and make it clear that he will not have the help of Putin in this election, that he rejects Russian espionage against Americans, which he actually encouraged in the past? Those are the questions we need answered. We've never had anything like this happen in any of our elections before.
She wants open borders. Now we can talk about.
He never denounced Russia. He never said, of course I denounce it. But instead, listen.
I don't know Putin. He said nice things about me. If we got along well, that would be good. If Russia and the United States got along well and went after ISIS, that would be good. He has no respect for her. He has no respect for our president. And I'll tell you what, we're in very serious trouble.
If he never met Putin and know nothing about Putin, how does he know who Putin respects and who he don't? How would he know? I tell you how. Because he didn't have no respect for her, and he didn't have no respect for President Obama. And Putin was probably patting him on the back and saying, how are you getting away with that? Huh? Just listen.
Because we have a country with tremendous numbers of nuclear warheads, 1,800, by the way, where they expanded and we didn't. 1,800 nuclear warheads, and she's playing chicken. Look, from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear. It's pretty.
Now, you notice, was that the proper reaction when somebody called you a puppet? I'm surprised. I mean, if somebody say, are you a puppet? I was like, what? I mean, that's what you normally would say, unless it's true. Then that catch you off guard, and no puppet, no collusion, no collusion. That same thing he said when you know that he's been conspiring with Russia. He said no collusion, right? Well, no puppet, no puppet. He didn't say I'm no puppet. He just said no puppet, no puppet.
clear, you won't admit that the Russians have engaged in cyber attacks against the United States of America.
He wouldn't admit it. And even after he was president and they clued him in that it had happened, he still wouldn't admit it. And calling it a witch hunt. Huh? Yeah. Okay. Now just remember, you had all of the evidence. And just remember, he read the snake to you before you elected him. Racism was froze and almost dead in America, and you took it in. All right. All right. I'm going to stop right there. Leave y'all, let y'all go on. And may Allah bless us. Keep us safe. In our right minds. It's a whole lot of people losing their mind. And which I told you. Okay. May Allah's salam alaikum.
This session is yours.